The Shepnaz Podcast begins now.
Welcome to the Shepnaz Podcast. I'm Joe, and I'm your host today. And today, we're taking a break from some of our normal things, and we've got Pastor Rob in to kind of talk about updates on Hocking Hills Retreat Center. There's been a lot going on down there for the past few months, actually for the past couple of years, but more visible things in the past few months. Yeah. So we're going to take a little time to talk about that and maybe some things more recently that were presented at District Assembly and kind of where we are with things and what the next steps are. So welcome in, Pastor Rob.
Great. Thank you. Good to be here. Looking forward to talking about this stuff. I always like to talk anyway about anything, but this is fun.
I would imagine that there is still work ongoing almost on a daily basis right now.
Yeah, I remember one time praying like, Lord, I hope I'll get to see this done. And I felt like I heard the Lord laughing.
He's like, done?
It'll never be done.
Like you can see it in progress. Yeah, exactly. I'll show you that. I'll show you a lot of that.
Yeah. So, but we kind of, you kind of break, a project like this down into phases because there's no, it's going to take a decade to get everything done in terms of the vision that we have for it. But break it down in phases. And the first phase for us was getting the cabins, so kids would go have a place to sleep. And so our initial goal is to build 8 cabins and 2 shower houses. We were going to do the 8 cabins first and then realized that wasn't a good idea because if you get kids there, they don't have a place to go take a shower or go to the bathroom. Yeah, they'll find a place, and that would be bad. So we went for 4 cabins and a shower house. And so I actually was down there yesterday and spent the day just kind of taking an assessment of where we are and getting a punch list to finish things up. So the 4 cabins are essentially done. There is a each cabin has a bathroom in it. And there's a small hot water heater that needs to be hooked up in the bathrooms, just basically to provide water for the sink in the bathroom. If a kid were to actually wash their hands after they went to the bathroom, they could potentially have warm water, but that's about it.
As you were saying this, I was like, oh, so actually this episode is just so that you can publicly ask me to come down and hook up the hot water.
Well, that's I'm just saying. So, but that's all that really needs to be done there. They've got the heat, the air conditioning, the electric's all done. I think we're going to polish the floors because they're concrete, but it needs a polishing. Then we'll put the beds in, which we already have the bunks and everything, and they're ready to be used.
Well, now you kind of were breezing past a couple things there really quick. I mean, you talk fast normally anyhow, but for some people it might come as a surprise. Like, when I grew up, went to camp, like the idea that there might be heating and air conditioning, that's like next level stuff. So for those that aren't aware, maybe let's take a step back. Maybe this is their first hearing that, if they're new to the church, that there's even this campground and what the progress is. Kind of like how we are as a collection of churches, that we have this collective property down there in Logan.
Yeah. So the property is owned by the district, which is the district we're a part of, South Central Ohio, and it's in Hocking Hills, right on the outskirts of Logan. Literally between Logan and Old Man's Cave, and we have like 667 acres, I think.
It's beautiful.
It's amazing. Yeah, beautiful place. And Hocking Hills is actually the second most visited place in the state of Ohio, next only to Cedar Point.
Wow.
So it's growing like crazy. And I was just talking with somebody who lives down there and had some rental cabins, but they're talking about how they're talking about Hocking Hills being kind of like the next Gatlinburg, and just really growing economically and development and as a tourist attraction and that kind of thing. So we're in a really great position, and we have a beautiful piece of land. And so, the grand vision is to create a camp that's world class, that people come to it from all over the country because it's a great camp. And then we would provide programming, spiritual programming. And so youth pastors, children's pastors bring their kids. We provide the services, everything. They just hang out with their kids and have a great time.
Now, currently at the camp across the street, there's like an RV park. And then there's just to one edge of the property, there's some personally owned cabins, but they're all kind of like Nazarene cabins.
Yeah. A lot of them are kind of like, if you've been around, you like the camp used to be on Morse Road. We had these little white cabins, like cottages, basically. Mm-hmm. There's some of those. They're like 500 or 600 square feet, if maybe 400 square feet, maybe if we're lucky. And they're mostly like seasonal. People go down for a weekend or whatever. There's a few that some people live in, but it would be a challenge to live in a place like that.
So then we're talking about the main campground, and on that we have a couple existing structures. There's I don't know what we call that one.
Call
building.
It the Marshmallow. Okay. Which I'm just praying that there'll be at some point it will catch on fire and we'll be able to turn it in
with no one in
insurance. Right. I don't want anyone to get hurt. I don't want a forest fire or anything like that. Just that structure or a giant hailstorm that would just rip to shreds. But it's the main meeting space, and it's a sprung building, which is like a canvas kind of thing, but it has heating and air conditioning, and we can seat maybe 500 people in there. And it's nice, but it'll eventually go.
Now that building is actually where the services are held for camp meeting. That's coming
camp
up
meeting
in July.
A lot of groups rent it out. The rental of the campground has increased dramatically over the last couple of years. Basically, since COVID, it has just really gone up a lot. A lot of church groups, community groups, schools, or other organizations. It's becoming even businesses. It's becoming more and more of a place, but. Our goal is to, like I said, finish these cabins up so kids will have a place to stay in the shower house. And then the next project is we're continuing to build the other 4 cabins, which they're already under construction. We have the foundation down, the plumbing is in, the rough plumbing, and getting ready to pour the concrete floor, and then we'll put the framing for the cabins up. And that's why I was down there yesterday counting up all the wood, see if we have enough wood left to build the next 4. Which will probably have enough to build 2.5 or 3, and so we'll have to purchase some. But then the next phase is the dining hall, and so this dining hall that we want to build it's about a 15,000 square foot building. It'll be built into the side of a hill, so you'll walk from ground level. You'll walk actually onto the second floor, and then you'll go down and you'll walk out at ground level below it, which is because it's built into a hill. It will actually overlook the lake that's getting ready to go in just a couple of months. We've already staked that out, and
that's pretty good size. Like, did you say 5 to 7?
Yeah, it's about acres? 6 1/4 actually. Yeah, so that's a fun story in and of itself. And so we had initially found an excavating company that said it would be $50,000 an acre. To build a lake, and we were hoping for 10 acres. And so when they said that, we could do 10 acres. And then they came down and did a test dig, and they're like, oh, based on the soil, we're going to have to move a lot of soil around, so it's going to be 100,000. So we shrunk it to 5. And so we've been thinking that all along. And then recently, maybe within the last couple of months, we came across a local excavating company that was run by some Amish brothers. It's called Coyote Run Excavating. It's only called Coyote Run because they like coyote hunting. But they're like it's kind of like Duck Dynasty, sort of.
This raises so many questions in my mind.
I have stories about these guys. So if you think Duck Dynasty and these 2 Amish brothers, it's like the Amish version of Duck Dynasty. Nice. These 2 guys,
nice.
They're great, and they're Amish. They're 100% Amish, but they pull up in a car, with all kinds of stuff in it, and it's hilarious. But anyway, they're. And they've got their kind of this German accent kind of thing going. And so we said, we'd like you to come and check this out. And so they look I take them down and said, this is where the other guy said, and he said, well, that's not 5 acres. And I'm like, well, that's what the other guy told me. He goes, well, that other guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And so I said, well, what is 5 acres? And so he starts walking it off. And he goes, this is what I would do. And he's got his brother in there yelling across the field and everything. And he's like, says that, he kind of points where it's going to be. And I'm like, that's awesome. I want you to do this.
I want your 5 acres.
And so, yeah, your 5 acres is different than the other 5. So the guy says, Jerry, he's one of the guys that's helping down there. He said, what do you think it'd cost to do this? And they're like, and they're rubbing their chin and talking. And
how much you got?
We'll get with you. And already I'm like, I'll pay you $500,000 to build the lake that this other guy was going to build, because your lake is twice the size. But the Lord just said, shut up, just don't say anything.
Probably
so I didn't say anything.
Choice.
So then they come back and they're like, well, we think we'll probably do this for $90,000. And we had an estimate for $500,000. And then my next question was, how are you guys going to dig this? You're like using horses, or do you have like bulldozers and stuff like that? Like, oh no, we have equipment and everything. So they're, again, Duck Dynasty. It's the Amish guys who are running heavy equipment.
Yeah.
And so Jerry starts asking him about the equipment. He's like, is it a 1400, series 7, 6, whatever? I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about.
Niner.
But he's like, no. And he rattles this off and he's like, it's old stuff. We like the old stuff because you can fix it and get parts for it easy. And so I'm like, yeah, there's something to say about that. So anyway, Jerry's like, well, what if we give you 100,000? He goes, oh, that'd be great. So they're
that will fix our equipment.
Yeah. So we went from 500,000 for a 5-acre lake to 100,000 for like 6 1/4. They're actually taking out some trees that were, and it's just way bigger and way better. And then there's a lot of things to do with like the, EPA and Army Corps of Engineers and Ohio Department of Natural Resources when you build a lake or whatever. And so the funny story about that was I had a contractor who says, you got to get all these permits and talk to these people, and it's going to take you 5 years. So Jerry's like, well, we're in Hocking County. You should just talk to I can't think of the guy's name right off the top of my head. But it
might be good that you can't. Yeah. It's the Lord intervening right now.
Yeah, it is. He said, just talk to him. He's like runs the city council or whatever. And so we went and we talked to him, and he's like, oh, you don't need to do all that down here. We have some different, requirements or whatever. You just need to get a permit from the city. And we're like, well, what do we do for that? He goes, just ask me. I'm in charge of it. And so like, well,
may we have permission, sir?
Would like a permit. And he goes, well, you got to pay the fee. And we're like, how much is the fee? And I'm thinking, he's like $50. And I'm like, Roddy, do you have $50? Give him the man the money right now. So, and these guys also knew like there's a creek that runs through, and we were going to kind of divert the creek into the lake, and then realize, the Amish guys are like, you can't, does the creek have a name? And we're like, yeah, I think it has a Harper Run, I think is what it's called. He goes, you can't mess with it if it's got a name. If it's got a name, it's on the registry. You mess with it, you got to get all kinds of permission. He goes, we'll just build it right next to it. But and he says, there's nothing that says you can't pump water out of it. And so I'm like, so we would build the lake right next to the creek, pump the water out of the creek into the lake. And then when the lake overflows, it would go into the creek, and we don't have to ask anybody permission. All we have to do is get the $50 permit. And they're like, yep. I'm like, you're hired. So they actually are starting in August. So that's like 2 months.
Well, I mean, and there's been story after story of how God has just provided. I mean, even going back for those that haven't been following this along, of when you're talking about having the lumber, like these were fallen trees on this property, and God made provision for us to have the equipment to be able to actually make it into lumber and to be able to house it and cure it. And I mean, it's just amazing how just in savings alone, I mean, you've probably
about $1 million in lumber already. We got for nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, just besides the labor of cutting it, we had to cut it up and dry it. But it was, it's amazing. And so that's why I was counting all that yesterday. I think we have enough. If you go down there, we have they have really high, big beam trusses. So it's a big open, giant cabin looking thing with beams. And the beams are all hardwood. So they're oak or, they're mostly all oak, some hickory, which is a really hard wood. And we weren't thinking when we were going to be building it that we were going to have to be manipulating the hardwood, drilling it and all that other kind of stuff. But we got it all figured out. But I mean, I think these cabins could have the potential to be around for a really long time. So,
well, and as we're talking about it, I'm going to throw some images. So if you're not watching video, you're just listening to audio, you might want to switch to the video on YouTube, or Spotify also has the video so that you can see some of the images of the things that we're talking about. Speaking of images, and you had mentioned that the dining hall would be next. That was something that kind of got revealed at District Assembly recently. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so super excited about that. The dining hall, like I said, it'll be 15,000 square feet. It'll have 2 levels, 5 fireplaces in it, 2 indoor, 3 outside. Have a big wraparound deck on it. The back wall of the dining hall will be basically all windows and glass all the way up to it'll be like a big cathedral arch ceiling as well. And then it'll overlook the lake and the hills. And then off to one side, there'll be a high ropes adventure course. And on the other side, there'll be a big amphitheater cut into the hill where kids could gather, for morning chapels or meetings or whatever you wanted to do. So that'll all be there, and it'll have a fully functioning commercial kitchen. It'll seat about 350 at tables. Mm-hmm. So our thought process is that probably that would be some it'll be full all the time. So we need a place for when kids are at camp to feed them. So it'll obviously be that, but I think it'll be a beautiful place for like weddings and receptions and that kind of stuff. So I think it'll be full all the time. The other thing is that we don't have a lot of meeting spaces except for the Marshmallow. But this will provide meeting spaces on the upper level and the lower level. So we could potentially have 5 different groups with meeting spaces that'll hold 50 to 300 people. And so then you could have multiple groups there at once at the same time, using the facility, but having their own kind of experience in a retreat together. So we want to be able to do that. So that'll be something that will help us to generate money. So we actually have a team of myself and 4 other guys that are taking some training right now through a company called Generis to begin raising funds for that. So we're hoping to pay for it as we go so we don't end up in debt or anything. We don't want to have any debt. Right now we have no debt with everything that we've done. So we'll hopefully start making appointments for people to cast a vision and ask them to be involved in helping support the project in July is probably my goal. And if you're on the team and you're listening, there you go. That's news.
It's July.
I haven't told them yet. So we're hoping to be able to start doing that. And then we have some other creative ways of trying to generate some income as well. The district has some properties that we're hoping to be able to that are already in the process of being sold and divert some of that money to the camp. And there's a couple other moves that we have. And then there's some pieces of property that are connected to our property down there in Hocking Hills that are not super strategic for our the vision of the camp that we have, that we might be able to unload a little bit because there's some other companies down there. You mentioned on one side, there's the living space. On the other side, there's actually a canoe livery. Mm-hmm. And they're interested in a little piece of land to develop their place a little bit more, which it's nice when somebody wants it because it's worth more than when you're just putting it up for sale.
And for those that would be concerned about what if, it's great to have these complementary, kind of businesses nearby. If you've ever noticed, when somebody builds a fast food place, you will find like 3 other fast food places right next to it. So if we have things like the canoe livery and other things that can be done in the area, that only brings more attention and appeal to our campground because we're in the middle of a lot of other things that people can be involved in.
Yeah. And so it's a good thing. And this we have not necessarily had a historically good relationship with this business, but it's increased. The owner it's a different owner, it's a different family member, but it's a better relationship that we have right now. And so he's more, amenable to our vision and likewise. So that's possible. Then we talked about the RV campground that we have on the other side of the road next to the river. And it's that's something that we're looking at. Does that continue to be a part of our long-term vision? because right now it's not a programming place. This is a place for people to come and park the RV, and then they have a weekend or whatever. And if that's something that we want to say, this is going to be part of our vision, but at the same time, if we do that, then we also have to divert manpower to keep it up and keep it, maintained and looking nice and everything working. And at a campground, things break down and it takes manpower to keep it fixed. So we're trying to kind of hone in and sharpen our focus on what our real vision is going to be about. So that's something that we're looking at as well. So lots of different resources and ways that the Lord has to help us with that. But yeah, there's a lot going on.
So for right now, this summer, obviously we're not ready to start on the dining hall yet, but are there things people can be involved in now, and how could they get a hold of you to do that?
Well, two things. One, if you'd be interested in, having someone meet with you and just sharing the vision and seeing how you could be a part of supporting that, just reach out and let us know. You could, podcast at shepnaz.org. I can set up a time to meet with you and share the vision. We're working on putting together some printed material that we'll be able to share in a presentation. But also, everything that we've done so far, for the most part, it's been volunteer driven, things that we can do. There's some things we obviously have to have contractors to do, to put in certain things that require permits and licenses to do. But really the only thing left in the shower house is we have these partitions to put in between, the shower stalls and the toilets and that. Once that's done, we just drop the toilets in and turn on the water and they're done. So, probably if I had, 3 or 4 guys who kind of knew what they're doing, we get that done in a few days. We're ready to open it up and say we're operable and ready to go. So my goal, we got to be done by the end of June, and I don't think that'll be a problem. So, cool. And then we're already starting on the other ones, and then starting to raise money, and then looking at the other 14 phases as well. And sometimes they all kind of overlap, like some of the things we want to do require a lot of dirt. Well, we're getting ready to dig a lake. So let's take the dirt that we know we're going to have to displace and put it in a place where we know we want it, because there are going to be certain activities there. Like we want to create a gun range. So we need a big dirt mound to be able to shoot into, and we want to fashion that just right. And some other things that are fun to do with dirt, sure. So they all kind of, some of those projects that wouldn't normally be a high priority become priority because let's move the dirt once instead of twice kind of deal. So we're working on some of that. Yeah.
All right. That's very exciting. As Rob mentioned, you can email podcast@shepnaz.org if you want to see more information about that. One of the things that we'll just tease right now, there is a video of what the virtual version of the new dining hall will look like. So if you're interested in seeing that, you can also email us and we'll make arrangements for you to get that link so you can take a look at it. Yeah. You can also check out everything that's going on at Shepherd by going to shepnaz.org. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For Pastor Rob, I'm Joe. Have a great day. This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.